Hey everyone, welcome to the Building Excellence Podcast. I've got my friend Dave Rader here with me today, and I'm really excited to have you on. I know you're going to share a lot of great, insightful stuff.
Insightful stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us where it all started from
Okay.
and in the beginning, just kind of go from there.
All right. I grew up in Tulsa, not far from here, from where we're seated right now, probably 5 miles from here. Originally born in Wichita, and our family moved down here because my mom wanted to be closer to her family. So that would tell you that family was very, very important to my mom. Has been passed down to us, and I think into our children as well. So Tulsa and the roots here mean a great deal to me. Attended public schools in Tulsa. The first one was Franklin, and so I always thought Ben Franklin was just one of the neatest people in history. And it turns out he was pretty good. All we did was fly the kites and try to get the electricity to hit the key, But then you learn more and more about him and did it. And then in middle school, which we call junior high, then I went to Woodrow Wilson. Okay, well, I thought that was pretty neat, go named after a president.
Yeah.
And then that kind of went the other way as far as Benjamin Franklin, because the more you learned about Woodrow Wilson, the more you thought, well, he may have not been all that upstanding of a man, and some of the views that he held and things like that, but he did accomplish a great deal. But it was always interesting to me that our nickname was the Rebels and Woodrow Wilson. So, there's a lot of history back there. I'm sure why it was chosen that way with his name associated with it. Now you look back on it and you say, okay, some things make sense. Then I went to Will Rogers, and of course, being a school named after Will Rogers, you really had a great interest in all the things that Will Rogers did. I mean, all the things, the way he wrote, the movies that he made, the influences that he had. A person coming from Rogers County, it wasn't even Oklahoma, it was Indian Territory. And in Claremore, and to go influence the world the way that he did.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was incredible. It did. So that, I took a great pride in going there. And then went to the University of Tulsa and graduated there with a degree in mechanical engineering. So that's kind of the basis of where we are, where we started. Went to church, of course. I tell this joke. It's probably not much of a joke. The reason we were Baptists is because it wouldn't matter as if we were going to go to church, were we going to be there on time, and it didn't really matter to Baptist church. So when you got there, so that's why we went there. But mom and dad were there. We want to make sure, and then we found out later that when mom and dad were dating, and they were getting more serious, that she told Dad, we will take our children to church. That was one mandate that she made. And so glad, we were very, very fortunate to have that. And so my foundation, the foundational thoughts, the worldview comes from Tulsa, comes from that church, comes from those schools, comes from those parents. That's the genesis of where my thinking and beliefs would be.
Would you say they were some of the greatest influences on you growing up, or who were those people?
Without a doubt. There's always some good teachers, but your parents are, and as we see our children being parents now, we see how influential they are with their children, and we try to remind them that Moses was raised by his mother for only 4 years, and she instilled in him in those 4 years the type of man that he would become later on. She only had 4 years with him, and it's just so very, very important that you understand in those 4 years what influence you can have on your children, even before they go to school. And so, yes, those influences were there. Then we had great teachers. Mom and Dad were very, very consistent. Dad worked extremely hard. He was very consistent in his work. By set almost your clock by the time he had left and the time he'd come home. Mom stayed home with us for a little while, and then she went back to work after we were a little bit into elementary school. And my brother and I were what we call now latchkey kids. We'd come home, open the door, wait on them to come home. We didn't think anything about it because we knew that they were going to be there. They were the influences on our life, and then of course we were blessed with friends and families that looked after each other. So yeah, it's
you grew up in a great community.
We did.
Yeah.
And again, it was very important. Our family is very important. So mom and dad would make sure that we would go to family gatherings and know people, and then learn about their background and learn about your roots, you know, and where you come from. Because as you and I were talking about, everybody has a story.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story. And we can learn from them. And so from your family, you know, you can learn, that's a habit I don't want. That's a character trait I admire. You can learn that from you. It's you're granted too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know,
good or bad.
good or bad. So, you know, some people will ask me, you know, you don't drink alcoholic beverages. I said, no, I don't. You know, if that's your call, that's your call. But one of the reasons is that we had some family members that had a problem with alcohol. I mean, distant family members, and it really scared me. Really. You know, I said, because I knew that I love sugar, and you know, we were told later on there might be an association with that. So I really never wanted to give that a chance to do that. So yeah, those influences, good or bad, happen out of those family and friends in the community. And you can tell that I am now in political office. I serve as a state senator in Oklahoma. So you ask me a short question, I give you a long answer. I'm sorry, that's how I do it.
That's good. What's your favorite sugary drink? Soda.
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper. That's
Is there any other?
Yeah, that's a good one. One thing that you haven't touched on yet, obviously, you played sports growing up, and that had a big impact on your life and what you wound up doing. But when did you start playing sports, and how did that influence you growing up?
Baby, probably anybody out there that's played sports, I'm going to say the same thing that you're thinking. I don't recall ever making that decision. It was something that I remember. The earliest memories I had was playing ball, either going to watch my cousins play and standing behind the fence and hearing, you know, just hearing the ball hit the bat. You know, there's just something about that. Going to their football games, and you know, when you're young, they were so big. You know, smelling the popcorn, you know, all those sensory things that come to you when you're young to experience this, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play ball, and there was a release, and there was a joy in that, and there was discipline to be gained in it. There was a camaraderie that came out of that like none other. And it just continued to grow and grow and grow, and that's one of the reasons I went into coaching, because I wanted to still be a part of that. And because I had so many good coaches influence me, I thought, well, maybe I can influence some young men as well. You know, I look back on, you know, even grade school coaches, people that, you know, they would work their job and they would become coaches, either football, basketball, or baseball. You know, well, now I look back on that and say, well, these guys really gave a lot of themselves. And you learn from that. Then my coaches in high school, you know, you're starting to understand a little bit more about game plans and the ins and outs of the game, and try to listen to them from learning. You go to college, you learn a little bit more, and you start learning how things come together, and then you're more aware of sociologically of how bring the team together, and because you have all sorts of different personalities that you're trying to put in there for a common goal, and these are intriguing to me. And athletics has the ability to do that as no other activity can. And I played in the band for a little while, and I've been in junior high. I was in plays, so you know, it's not that I've ever been in film or anything, but I understand the camaraderie and the teamwork that comes out with that. But there's nothing like the locker room. There's nothing coming together and physically demonstrating your abilities or inabilities in public in front of people against other people that sometimes are way better than you, but yet you're going to go ahead and compete anyway. Because when you come out, as a coach reminded me, he says, you know, in here it's tough. He said, but out there, it's real tough. And so we had to teach our guys, and we really want to teach our guys these positive characteristic traits that can only be learned to me from a team sport. The greatest team sport ever invented was the game of American football. So that when they came out of there, that the number one lesson that they learned, the number one lesson that football can teach you is you get knocked down, you get back up. You get knocked down, you get back up. And if we can learn that lesson, Bailey, time and time again, you lose a job, you got to go find another one.
Yeah.
You lose a family member, you mourn, but you got to get back up.
Mm-hmm.
You lose a test score, you got to go again. You lose a spouse, you got to come back together.
You got to deal with it, yeah.
So that is such an important lesson to learn,
mm-hmm.
because we cannot have people in our society that when things go bad and you lose, to say it's not fair, well, life is not fair, and that you owe me something, because that's not written anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's the value of team sports. It's the value of many co-curricular activities, but especially sports, to do that. And by going through that, I know that individuals are better in society. They contribute better when we teach them these lessons. And that's why I'm a proponent in college sports, is that we've gone far enough in how if a college degree is what we're saying, it's absolutely critical to do that. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, then let's teach them these things. Don't worry about paying players, because if we can't teach them these lessons, then whenever the playing is done,
mm-hmm.
I may end in junior high, you may end in high school, or a neighbor over here, he may end in college, and then the neighbor behind you, they may play professional sports.
Yeah, eventually it's all
but it's going to end someday. And what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
I know I'm speaking what you know already.
No, but yeah, it's great stuff, and obviously you've lived that to a T. But let's hop back into, you were a pretty good player. You played at Will Rogers, and then you wound up going to TU and playing football as a quarterback. Do you have any experiences before we get into college that shaped you early on?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Could you ask me that question? I was going to tell you this story. I'm going to go back to my mom.
Okay.
Being the influencers in life. Okay. So before she went back to work and she would be at the house, I can specifically remember one day, and this is the influence, and parents are out there. I know you know this, but I'm just going to reemphasize it too. We were on an afternoon, and my mom loved rawhide. Okay, and rawhide was on the afternoon. Okay. So she had her ironing board out, and she was doing her ironing, because it must have been Tuesday. Okay, so she was doing her ironing and watching rawhide. And Rowdy Gaines, I think that was the guy's name. Okay, I think it's Clint Eastwood. Okay, and we were sitting there, and I just kind of, I was kind of there watching, doing, whatever a 5-year-old boy might be doing. And I turned around and I said, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be whatever it is I said." Mm-hmm. I can't remember what I said, but I do remember what she said back. She put her iron down. Okay, Bailey, put her iron down. And looked at me. It wasn't just a flippant answer. She put her iron down and looked at me. She says, "I believe, son, you can be whatever you want to be." I still remember that.
Yeah.
So, somehow, some way, that has never left me. And that is great positive impact that you can make on your children.
Absolutely.
And when you're raising your children, okay, these pockets of inspiration, they only come every now and then. So you've got to always be ready to give it to you. So when your 5-year-old rolls over and says, "Hey, when I grow up, I want to be whatever," and you have a chance to make an impression that lasts for decades on that little boy. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to tell that story because that was very, very impressionable to me. So every time I went to bat, I thought I was going to get a hit.
Yeah.
Every time I took a snap, I thought we were going to get a first down, if not a touchdown. Every time the ball was hit to me, I thought the ball would go in because my mom believed I could do whatever I wanted to do. And all that did was just grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
So when you get into junior high and it's time to run for office and nobody else wants you to do it, or you get out with a group of your people and you're having a bunch of fun, it comes time to make decisions and nobody wants to make decisions, nobody wants to make the lead, you say, okay, I'll lead, and you do it. It's because sometimes you lead when nobody else wants to, and then you learn to do that. And they say, well, he's the leader and we'll just, we do it. And I believe many times leaders come about because nobody else wants to lead, and they just say, okay, I'll do it because nobody else wants to do it. I don't believe that a guy comes out of the womb and says, all right, I'm going to run the world. I think many of us acquiesce that to them. So that's where that came from, to be a leader. And so consequently, when it came to football, I was a captain of the football team. When it came to basketball, I was captain of the basketball team. Even into college, would be the captain of the team to do that. So that leadership role comes from those experiences, and you making the conscious decision that you'll lead and you're okay with people following you. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're playing sports, do you feel like you naturally were a leader by example, or by what you said, or a mixture of both?
Yes, that was a conscious example. That was a conscious decision to lead by example. That decision you have to make by yourself. How are you going to lead? You will lead because you will work harder than anybody else here, or nobody's going to work harder than you. You will lead that way. You will lead that way because you will know your role. You will do that, and you will lead that way because you will be on time, you will always be there, you'll give effort. You make that conscious decision. Okay? Other times it's just thrust upon you. Okay? We need you to do this. You accept the role and you go on. That is not a conscious decision. That's something you ask and you agree to go do it. Okay? And sometimes that happens. But the reason you're going to be asked is because you've already made the conscious decision you're going to lead.
Absolutely.
To do that. And there's still a fear in doing that. Sometimes you get in situations where you're going to have to bluff your way through this because the people behind you are thinking you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the leadership says you got to figure this out.
Well, and that's a great point, because what do you think separates people who step into the fear of, oh man, maybe I shouldn't step up because I don't want to be someone who steps on people's toes, or maybe people that have other doubts in themselves? Like, what puts people in a place where they step across that threshold versus people who never do? What do you think? Because you've been around people in a lot of different factors, in leadership in the government. You've been around NFL coaches, college players, NFL players, all this stuff. So you've seen a myriad of business leaders as well.
Exactly.
What do you think that little difference is?
Well, part of it's going to be opportunity. The opportunity is going to be there, then you have to jump on it to do that. It's going to take some gumption, and it's going to take a lack of fear to do it. Even though you may be fearful inside, you're still going to have some courage to step out there and do that. Okay? But it's going to... Ben Franklin, we'll go back to Ben Franklin.
Okay.
Ben Franklin said, experience is a dear school, but a fool will learn in no other. Experience is a dear school, but a fool will learn in no other. So I could tell you and answer part of this question and say to you, by wisdom, you know what to do, and wisdom, comes from making mistakes. So that means it's going to be a time. So there's a time factor. You may be a little older to do that, but sometimes you don't have that. You're not old. You don't have that. So you have to understand that there are going to be mistakes made, but you're going to do the best you can with the wisdom you have and make that decision and go. And you're going to have the courage enough to stand up there and do it and realize that failure is not fatal. And if it doesn't work this time, doesn't mean you're a failure. You just got to get a chance to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes those chances that you blow, it may cost you a job, it may cost you a position, but you had to step up and do it. But you make a comeback. I hope that answers your question.
It does.
Okay.
And you kind of touched on it, but at a young age, we can obviously see that you tried to be conscious of doing that.
Yes.
And so if people out there can start at a young age, it can build and compound over time. Then all of a sudden, you gain confidence in yourself and your abilities.
So, now at my age, I forgot where I was going with this. So how can I gain wisdom if I don't want to gain experience? Okay? Give you an example. All right. When our children turned 13, we would tell them, I was going to do a trip, something with them, just one-on-one. Okay. So the boys were going to do whitewater rafting. Our eldest turned 13. We were going to do the Arkansas River. It was a 2-day trip in Colorado. First day, if you've ever rafted, we're doing 2s and 3s. Mm-hmm. So you're thinking, right? 2s and 3s? That's a fun day, right?
Yeah.
Next day, we spend the night there next to the river. We get up and we go down some 2s and 3s, and we go have lunch. After lunch, we go back to the riverbed, and the demeanor of our guide has changed. He says, "You all line up." He went 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, pulled on our helmet, pulled on our vest, made sure everything. He says, "We are going to go through some 4s and 5s in just a few minutes. The water will be over your head. It may come into a raft. If you don't do exactly what I tell you to do, we will be in the river." Fun was over.
Yeah. You're paying attention now.
I'm paying a lot of attention. Because now we're going to go with a guy who's been through this before. I didn't want to experience it by myself. Am I making sense here? Mm-hmm. I needed the wisdom from this guide to take me through these trials that are going to come up. So how do we do that? Man, we have to pay attention to people that's been there before us. Excellent book writers, people that have been there. They tell their stories. We learn from them. We gain from their experiences. And then when we come to those opportunities where we need to make that decision, we have some experience behind us from someone else that we can gain on that wisdom. Mm-hmm. So don't forget to read the books, people on leadership, people you admire, and then know that that's going to be part of your foundational thought. Mm-hmm. And I have to go back to what I said earlier. Your worldview is probably going to be developed before you're 13 years old. And that worldview, I can't emphasize this any more than I can right now. And that worldview has to somewhere in there include a biblical worldview of how life is, how life began, and how life will be in eternity. You have to settle that in your mind and in your heart to have that foundational worldview that can carry you through life. So that book, the Bible, has to be part of that foundational thought. And then you have people, that write excellent books and you can learn from them. Mm-hmm. Again, another long answer.
No.
A short question.
No, that's great. And you wound up going into you playing football, getting drafted.
I was drafted in the 11th round, which they don't have anymore.
Yeah, but you got drafted though.
Uh-huh. So. And I was drafted, and this is what is so incredible. I'm drafted by the San Diego Chargers. Okay, I'm thinking I'm going to make the team. Because I've always made every team. Mm-hmm. The quarterbacks are Dan Fouts, James Harris. The head coach is Don Coryell. The offensive coordinator is Joe Gibbs. Okay, now you need to look up these names.
Yeah.
You don't know these names.
Yeah, they're pretty good names.
I'm going to go to camp with these guys. I'm going to learn football from Joe Gibbs. Mm-hmm. They cut me. Later on, the Giants picked me up. Ray Perkins is the head coach. Ray Perkins had played for Coach Bryant at Alabama. He had played for Don Shula with the Baltimore Colts. Mm-hmm. The previous season, he was the offensive coordinator before Joe Gibbs was the San Diego Chargers, and he would learn from Don Coryell. He was the head coach, and he met personally with the quarterbacks, and that relationship was formed. So I learned from Joe Gibbs. I learned from Ray Perkins. the game of football, and then Ray Perkins asked me to go to Alabama with him. No GA. I don't know that you don't like to hear this story.
Mm-hmm.
There was no GA part.
Yeah.
I just went right onto the staff.
Wow.
At the University of Alabama, and then learned from him the game of football even more in depth. George Henshaw was our offensive coordinator, and he had played for Bobby Bowden at West Virginia, coached for Bobby Bowden at Florida State. So I had this lineage of people teaching me football.
Pretty good.
From Don Coryell, Don Shula, Bear Bryant, Bobby Bowden, and their sons of Joe Gibbs and Ray Perkins teaching me, and Ray Perkins taking the time to meet with the quarterbacks and learn. And then he asked me to go to Alabama, and then I learned so much football down there.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredible. The staff that was there and to learn it. So very, very blessed. Is an MBA PhD course in the 3 years I was there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And very, very blessed to have it. So I learned from their experiences and tried to catch on, and knew and was forming my ideas that when I was going to become a head coach, so I just knew I was, because my mom said
you could do whatever you want.
So I knew I was going to be a head coach someday, and lo and behold, became my alma mater at the University of Tulsa. I felt like I was ready. I was 31 years old, just to turn 31. I was the youngest head coach in NCAA football at the time, but I knew I could do the job. And I knew the University of Tulsa, and I knew that I'd been prepared well. And so the opportunity came. I had the experience from other people. I'd never been a head coach, but I had all these experiences. I was going to pile on them, and I knew how I wanted to influence these young men that we're going to be a part of. And so we put it all in. And for 12 years, the University of Tulsa let me be the head coach. And we were able to do that.
Yeah.
And then from that, talking with the players over and over again, came the book, Missing Page from the Playbook, because these character traits that you try to pass on, I try to put some of these in the book about those things. Nothing new, it's just that I compile it in the way that I thought about them and present it to the players and then try to write them down. And mainly that is, one of the things I see lacking in our society right now, and that is commitment. We just like things easy. We don't really like to commit, because why is our divorce rate so high?
Yeah.
Why are men leaving their families? Bailey, why? Why can they not commit to their family? They're walking away from their children. We're having more and more single moms raise their kids than any time in the history of the United States, and it's gone up since the 60s. Okay, so we try to teach our guys, when you commit, you say, I can do it, I will do it, I am doing it. I can do it, I will do it, I am doing it. I can do it, I will do it, I am doing it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And everything that you decide to do, you have to go through those three phases.
Be committed to it.
You have to.
And that's one thing.
I started preaching, didn't I?
No, it's great. I wanted to touch on, you got to become a head football coach at the age of 31 years old, which at the time was the youngest. Yeah, I don't know there's many that get the job that young. And I didn't realize that. But for a lot of people that hear that, they could easily sit there and think, oh, well, he just had it made. He had it made. It just fell in his lap. And I think that is the point that I want to talk about. We didn't even get into, you can just tell by the things you say and what you did, you were committed to the process of getting to where you wanted to go. So you put in long hours. We didn't talk about the putting in the long hours in the weight room, putting in long hours studying film and, going.
And it was film then.
Yeah, real film. Yeah, those types of things. Practicing all the little things that add up to getting to certain points, so once you get to college, your goal might be to play in the NFL. So now you got to take these increments and you're working to get to that point. It just didn't happen overnight. And also same with coaching. I'm sure that there was good timing involved in it, probably.
No question.
No question about that. But there's a lot of work and preparation that leads up to getting to that point. And having the commitment to go and understand that I'm going here and I'm going to work hard to get there. It's not just like, I'd like to be there. I'm just going to wish it upon me.
Yeah, and I'm the closest guy to come to wishing unto a position. And the reason that Ray Perkins hires me is because I knew his system and I could help him coach the quarterbacks, because the first 2 years he was going to coach, I could help him because I knew the system and could help him. And he thought I was a good communicator. and do that. And he recently passed away, and I'm very, very fortunate that in our last conversation, I said, "I love you, Coach." And he repeated it back. And that's the kind of relationships that that you have. And that's what I'm talking about, the locker room and the coach's room, whatever. You have that. And so when all at once you look at the clock and it's 11 p.m. and you're still watching video.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, in season, if I can get to sleep by 12 and wake up at 6, and I can do 6 hours a night, and be back at the office by 6:30, okay, leave at 11:30, get back to the office by,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm talking about.
I love that you're saying it.
Okay.
That's the reality of it.
That's the reality of it. Then I'm having a better chance to be prepared for the young men I'm coaching. I have a better chance to be prepared for whatever we face on the next game. I'm just better prepared, and that's part of the commitment.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the leadership. The players look at you and say, well, you should have been prepared for that. You're right, I should have been. Was I prepared for everything? No. And you kick yourself in the rear saying, I should have seen that coming.
Mm-hmm.
And again, then that's the dear school of being the fool, having learning through experience, and you don't want to do that. That's why you watch the video, as you know, to do that. So when you make the commitment to do that, all you coaches, you know what I'm talking about, you better have a spouse that agrees with the schedule. And if you have to choose between your schedule and your spouse, my recommendation to you is to choose a spouse, because it's still a game. I know it's a great game. Whatever game you're coaching is a great game, but your spouse is more important. And we shouldn't have the divorce rate that we have in coaching. And we need to find out what's important and not what's urgent, which is one of the books that you read.
Yeah. So, real quick, let's go into marriage. How did you maintain a healthy family lifestyle?
Because I'm married well.
Yeah.
I have the best wife ever. And we made it. We made a decision, not me. We made a decision too. That when we were into coaching, and I think we would have made this decision had we been out of coaching. I think we would have. Janet made the decision. Her career was going to be your children. And she said, is that okay with you? And I said, that's great with me. Are you okay with me working all these hours? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so we had this agreement. She was head of maintenance, head of personnel, head of finance.
Yeah.
And I was the head of sales.
Yeah.
And that's how we were going to work. And I've been very, very blessed with that. And over 40 years of marriage, and that's what she wanted to do. And so our kids were raised with Janet home, and we turned down some money because she's very, very bright, could have a very, very successful career in doing something, but it was more important to do that.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is because I was away so much.
Yeah.
Now we have a son now whose wife is a coach. She's a very, very successful coach, 3-time state champion in volleyball at 3 years in a row. And they're going through it just the opposite. Her hours with him, staying at home,
Yeah.
And so we love to help now because we understand the schedule that they have to keep. But again, it just goes back. If you're going to coach, get ready for that. If you're a spouse of coach, be ready for their hours, and don't curse the hours. Jump in there, go to the games, raise your children around the games. It's a great way to raise your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So you go to Alabama. You were there for a couple years. Did you go straight from Alabama to TU, or how did that work?
Yeah, we went to. We were there for 3 years, 3 seasons, and then a good friend on the staff was Rocky Felker, and Rocky was a Mississippi State alum, and he was awarded the head job at Mississippi State. He offered me to be the offensive coordinator at Mississippi State. So I'm 29 years old, calling plays in the SEC.
Yeah.
He allowed me to do that. And I went with him. It's a tough decision. Do I stay with Coach Perkins? Because, we could stay at Alabama a long time, or he's going to go back to the NFL, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
But I really felt for my career, I needed to call plays. And so I go with him. George Henshaw, we were at Alabama, they hire him at Tulsa. I make the hard decision to leave Mississippi State. Now I'm 29. I call plays in the SEC.
Just a few years older than me.
Right, and then I say, no, I want to go home. We're raising our kids. Their grandparents are there. We'll go home, and that was a tough decision. I love Rocky Felker. We talk every other week now.
Yeah.
And it's hard to leave him. It's hard to leave Mississippi State, hard to leave the SEC. But you come to Tulsa, and then lo and behold, it's an incredible. I mean, there's so many providential situations about how I made it to Alabama, and then why did I go to Tulsa for the SEC, even though it's your alma mater. A year later, George Henshaw goes to the Broncos.
Mm.
And Tulsa is looking around, and they've been rocked by maybe 3 coaches in 5 years or something like that. And they said, well, maybe we need somebody to stay longer. And I said, that's small done. And then for 12 seasons, they let me do that. And so they named me the head coach.
Head coach.
And we had a lot of good players, and lost way too many games. But the positive things are we won some games we weren't supposed to win. They were great games.
Mm-hmm.
We continually graduated our players at a higher rate than the rest of the campus did, which we were very, very proud of doing. Even when the academic options were became more limited, we still were graduating. And now, as I walk around town, see so many, how they're involved in their community. Keep up with some guys on Facebook and see how their lives are going. It's you say, okay, this is why you did it.
It's more than just wins and losses. It's like impact.
Yeah.
Impact, absolutely.
At the end, it's a game.
Yeah.
They're paying your salary, and if you don't win games, they're gonna
reality.
Fire you.
Yeah.
And
let's get into you talk about transitioning and making decisions to jump to Mississippi State, to jump to Tulsa. You talk about having to leave Tulsa and deal with the lifestyle of a coach where there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of ups and downs, and how do you deal with failure? What is that?
I don't handle it well.
Yeah.
I blame myself first. Didn't have the team ready, didn't call the right plays, we didn't do the right defenses, we didn't, should have run that fake punt. I tell people, if you ever watch me coach, all through the week, the coaches would say, we got to do a fake punt, we got to do that, we got it. I said, the reason that you could spy us out, you knew we were going to run the fake punt is when I'm standing there by myself and no other coach stands by me, because that's a decision that's made during the game that everybody wanted to do on Wednesday. And on Saturday, when you make the call, all the other coaches leave you and say, I don't know if this is the time to do it. So you know that we're going to run the fake punt. So all those things come to you first, and I didn't handle them well. Lost a lot of sleep on it, but was determined to make up for it and still have a really good plan for our players the next week so we could remain competitive. And we were competitive over and over and over again, and had a few times we were blown out, but not that many times. And we played with people that had more talent we did over and over again. We beat people that had more talent we had, and we had a bunch of guys that just stuck in there and try to make it happen. So that commitment to bring to your players excellence day after day after day after day, and then to make sure that you're real with the players, because this. Players can read. They can read fake so fast.
Yeah.
And you're just fooling yourself if you're going to be faking with your players, because they read it and then you lost all integrity, which is, I guess we have plenty of time to tell stories.
Yeah.
So.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm at Alabama. I'm hired in December of '82. We're recruiting into January of '83. I still remember sitting down and talking with Coach Bryant, which was intimidating. because he actually did have the couch in front of his desk lower than his seat. He actually did look up at him. And then Coach Bryant died. Well, Coach Perkins is a strong man, but he, going to Alabama is a tough job, and he was really wanting Coach Bryant. Coach Bryant hired him personally, so we knew that either we weren't going to do it as good as Coach Bryant, or Coach Bryant wouldn't have done it that way. I mean, and Coach Bryant could have provided some cover for us. This is my guy, and he's going to run the program. But he passes away. So when he passes away, all these players come back. All the names, that name it, and the Snake and Stabler, and all these guys are coming back. And one guy came back. It was one of his favorite quarterbacks. He was coaching at Duke at the time. And I wanted to talk with him because he was kind of like the offensive front runner at the time. Okay. I said, Coach, you have some. He's coming back down the hallway. I said, you have some nice? He said, sure. I said, I'm 25 and I'm a young coach. I said, can you tell me? Can you give me something here? That helped me in my coaching career? And I just knew he was going to go to the board and draw something up on the board. And it was actually chalk.
Yeah.
Okay, to do that. And he looks down at the floor and he looks back at me. He says, tell the truth. Always tell the truth. It's better that your players be mad at you for 48 hours than not look at you as a man without integrity the rest of their life.
Wow, that's great.
How good was that?
Yeah.
So
weren't expecting that answer.
Yeah. So I made a commitment to tell the truth. Always tell the truth. I'd rather them be mad at me for 48 hours than doubt me the rest of their lives. So that's one of the things that we took in there. And I upheld that. I know, because I know in my heart I always tell the truth. And didn't try to go around the bush on anybody on that. So that is, to me, a leadership characteristic that we have to have. And I've seen coaches not do that. I had to be around it, and it's very uncomfortable to do that. So that was the story I was wanting to bring today.
Yeah.
I knew that when you talked to me earlier, I wanted to bring that story because it really made an impact on my leadership style and just living style to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're at Alabama, or you go to TU, don't you want to back up at Alabama, or what?
We'll go back to Alabama. TU lets me go in October of '99. I go into private industry. Why? We had children in high school. I was really, really tired. I was really, really tired, and I didn't want to move. We could. There's a couple of jobs we could have had, and gone there, and we could have started doing the 2 and 3 years rotation thing. And I was tired. I didn't know if I wanted to do that then. So we went into private industry. IT was really hot then, and so I was in the IT world.
Yeah.
Selling IBM products and things like that, and was learning a lot. And lo and behold, some things happened at Alabama again. They're looking for a coach. They hired Mike Shula. Mike Shula was the quarterback that we had in '83 when I was there. We coached him, and he and I touched base. We stayed in contact the whole time. I was watching his career there, and he says, "You want to come here, come back and coach?" I said, "Sure." And Janet said, "Sure."
Yeah.
So Janet and the family stayed in Tulsa for a year because our second child was going to be a senior at Union, and was one that ended up playing football at Union High School. I stayed there. I went by myself, stayed a year by myself in Tuscaloosa in 2003 to coach, and they stayed here. And finally Janet and our daughter moved to Tuscaloosa then in the summer of '04. So that decision again was made with my spouse. It was a great opportunity, and you see all these opportunities. I continue to call them providential opportunities, because so many times when we pray, we say, "Oh God, show me what I'm supposed to do. Show me what," and I'm so dumb, that He gives me an opportunity to coach at Alabama again. Now I don't know about you, Bailey, but that's pretty clear what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't. You have an opportunity to coach down the street with the flag football team of the third graders. You know, you might do it, and it's a great. You know, we need those guys, and I've done that. Okay, but you might not do it because you're real busy. You know, this was an opportunity that was so clear to do it. So we did it, and we're there for 4 years. Really tough years. We went there. We were on probation. People said, "Oh, we know we're on probation. It's going to be a while." And I said, "No, you are going to forget about this." And you know, even people said, "You know, it's going to take 4 or 5 years to come back because this is really tough." And we said, "We know it is. You're going to have to hang with us." Well, we forget. You know, we had a season there. We didn't win enough games, so they asked us to turn in our keys, and that was it. But it was a great time. Anytime you're in the SEC, the games were just so keen. The players are so good, and that rivalry is so big. We were, you know, anytime you play Auburn, it was a big game. You go to LSU, it was a big game. And we had a season where we went 10 games. Played Texas Tech in the Cotton Bowl. Ended up number 8 in the country. So I wanted to make sure that while we were there, you know, we had our family there. Said, I've never been to a New Year's Day bowl game. This may be my last time. Turned out to be profitable. I was a prophet. That was it. So we took full advantage of it and had a wonderful time there. So again, then I came back to to private business and went to Ole Miss for a year in 2010. And hadn't coached since. But you know, we've had more than our fair share of great stops, great people everywhere. Learned football from a lot of really good people. Learned a lot from Mike Shula. I coached Mike in college. He goes to the NFL, learns from his dad, learns from other people, and then I learned even more football from him. And I think that's something that we older coaches sometimes we have to step back, and even though we may have some wisdom that the younger coaches might draw on from us, if you're an older guy working for a younger guy, you got to let the younger guy be the coach, and you got to understand that they are the head coach and let them do that. And whenever you can give them some wisdom, then give it to them, but don't tell them what to do, because they got to figure it out. Now, if they're doing something totally wrong, you know, you got to do that. But their ideas may not be your ideas, but they have a reason to do it. And it's okay to question them. That's why you're there. But you know, you're not their head coach anymore, and you let them be that. So. And we did. So today we laugh on a few things. You know, he's going, "Oh, I can't believe I asked that of you and do that." And I said, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah.
So we laugh about it. So those are good years. That again, it was a little bit different leadership type of role. It was a supportive leadership type of role. Yeah, you're doing great. You know, you may want to do this. You may want to do that. Things like that. So I think that's a different type of leadership role. Sometimes we don't talk about too much, Bailey, is that when you've been the leader and then you become the assistant leader, how can you still lead by being the assistant leader when one time you were the leader, and you can do that in a supportive role. And for sure, whatever you're committed to with the team, that you draw that out, and you're not the one to say, "Yeah, but." I mean, that's a cancer in our society is the "yeah, buts." I'm with you, except for this one deal, and so I can't be with you because no. Yeah. You know, on a leadership
commitment.
Team, you're in. Now, when you go shut the door, bam, hey, what are you doing? But when you come out of the door, hey, yeah, we got a plan. Yeah, we're going to go do this. And so we older guys who are now under the younger guys, that's our type of leadership now. And sometimes we forget that and think, well, I've already been down the road because, again, I'm older than you. But man, these guys are really sharp, and they're, you know, when we were young, the older guys let us make some mistakes too. Yeah. So you can't forget that. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So that's something I think as leaders, when once your role changes, you can still be a leader. It's a different type of leadership position. It's a supportive leadership role. You do what you're committed to do by your team and to your coach, and you lead that way because you can still have a positive impact on not only the kids, but now you have a positive impact on more of your fellow coaches because you're older and they're kind of looking at you, and then when they see how you adjust to certain situations and handle certain situations. I don't even know if there's a book on that. Maybe we should write that book.
Yeah.
On supportive leadership.
It's a missing page in the leadership book.
Okay, there you go. I like that.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Yeah.
So that was another learning experience for me, Bailey.
Writing a book?
Yeah. Well,
or just
the supportive
leadership.
But writing the book, that came about because I kept telling Janet I was going to write a book, and then finally, Ole Miss asked me to turn in the key there, and I said, okay, we're going to write it now. And so we sat down and wrote it. And lo and behold, we sold enough books to pay for the printing.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving them out now. But it's a great experience because one of the things we were talking about off camera a while ago, you were talking about your children and some things you want to pass along to them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to me, it's
great. Yeah.
This is one of the reasons I wrote it down. I said to my children, if nobody else read it, I hope my children and grandchildren will.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is something that really was important to me. And what a great discipline exercise. Now, I hope that you're not fired and have the time to do it because you're fired. But it is, whether, write down your notes, write down your thoughts, write down these, your worldview, your foundational thoughts, and probably every young coach, young leader should do that. They should start out and say, this is what's important to me right now. These are my commitments to excellence, and this is how I see it. And then review them on an annual basis. There's going to be some that are going to be core that never change. There's going to be some that you're going to have to edit and change as well. And to me, that comes with maturity and know what is core and what needs to change.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the questions I want to ask you, because I played my first basically pickup league basketball game last night. It's been COVID, so you don't get to play that much. And I'm definitely out of shape. Not near the same level I was before. Not that I was ever at a great level. But you sit there, and last night I just didn't play very well.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't played very well. I didn't shoot very well. So anyway, I'm in my truck, and I just feel some pressure that I put on myself. Like, you know what? I didn't perform.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't achieve. I didn't do very well. And it kind of puts you in a negative state. And it pushed me back into athletics. Because I remember when you don't play well, that's how you think about things. When maybe you don't coach well, you kind of think the pressure's on yourself. So how important is it, do you think, to understand that your identity is not in sports? Like, I know that, but at the same time, we're taught in athletics that performance, achievement, and then when we get out of athletics, performance, achievement, and our work. So how do you maintain identity of I'm not just my achievements?
It's hard lesson.
Yeah.
Henry Iba, Mr. Iba at Oklahoma State, Oklahoma A&M and Oklahoma State, he is quoted to have said there's two people you can't lie to. One is God and one is yourself. Mm. You can lie to anybody else, but you can never lie to God. You can never lie to yourself, because exactly what you're saying. You knew inside you did not perform well.
Yeah.
You knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Why? In your case, is a lack of preparation.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So is that correctable?
Absolutely.
That is correctable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to try to correct it. So it is knowing that failure, again, is not fatal. And I think you have to have a proper balance in life to realize what is your identity, because you're going to wear a lot of hats in your life. So which hat's going to be your identity? Scripture tells us that where our heart is, that's where our treasure will be found.
Mm-hmm.
So the heart is talking about the inner person, the real you, who you are. So what are you seeking? And whatever that deep, deep seeking part of your heart is, that's your identity. So for the believer who understands the magnificence of Christ, if that's our deep, deep desire, is to be like Him, then it is in Him is our identity. Otherwise, it's going to be whatever hat we're wearing that day is our identity, and we'll never. This is a hard lesson. We'll never step away from whatever hat we're wearing that day. And you know what's going to happen with that? Last night your basketball hat failed you.
Yeah.
Okay. And today it may be your wife comes home and you're wearing your husband's hat. and she asks you to do something, oh, I totally forgot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she might take it that where you don't really respect what I asked you to do, and it's going to really cut you. Your identity as a husband failed you. As a business person, you're trying to win a project, trying to win a bid. They choose somebody else. Your identity as a business person failed you. So whatever identity that you have outside of Christ, there's going to be a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all failed. But yet we think like, this is the only way people are going to see me. So again, that foundation has to be in that deep, deep desire, whatever it is that you want to be, not want to do, but want to be.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So the only way that your identity is never going to fail, he says, my identity is in Christ because he's perfect, he's made a way for me, and that's where I want my identity to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, our identity is always going to be hurt because we are prideful people. We think a lot of ourselves. Doesn't matter who you are, you think a lot of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And we think we don't. Sometimes we think we really don't care what people think about us, but we do because we dress a certain way. We want to smell a certain way. We don't want to smell this way. We want to kind of fit in, but we don't want to fit in.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, we do try to protect our identity. So as long as we know what our true identity is, then you can always rely on that, set your feet on that, and build your life on that.
Yeah.
Realizing that the other identities are going to fail you, and you know what? The people that cry at your funeral, they really don't care because they're going to be with you in the long run.
Yeah.
And so those are the people you got to count. That's who you need to count on.
Yeah.
Other people that are just wanting something out of you. And when they come to your funeral, they're going to look at their watch. Okay? You're concerned about the people that are going to cry at your funeral.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. It's knowing whose you are and then knowing who you are from that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do that. So, yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, as men, baby, I'm telling you, as men,
Yeah.
don't give me this genders are the same. No, as men, we count on our work as part of our identity. I want to tell you that each time, I've been fired 7 times, Bailey. And you think you are a total failure. My identity is in my job. Because you know what, Bailey? Let's just be really, really frank here. I love being called coach.
Yeah.
And they took that away from me. That's hard, because that was my identity. And then somewhere, you calmed down and said, no, my true identity is what I truly desire most. And so I had to put my feet back on that. I want to tell you, as men, it's going to hurt you. I don't know about women because I'm not a woman. I'm telling you about men. I've dealt with men my whole life and coach young men. It's going to hurt you. All right? I'm just telling you.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point because we also like to know the application of how we can do that. How do you do that? And you talked about taking some time to step back, think, and be like, this is not my identity. So it's important to have space to sit back and think instead of just being on the go all the time. Take some time to think about where you are and what just happened, and then
That's a great
apply.
point. I think, and it does. It's going to take time. It will take time.
Yeah, and when you go through that too, it hurts. It hurts to feel like you failed, and that hurt might last a short period of time and might last a little bit longer, but it takes time too.
It does time.
In that regard.
And I tell you, we can learn this too, is to be a better friend. All right, when our buddy hurts and their identity has been crushed or been damaged, we can be a friend and go, yeah, I don't care. Come on, I'll go shoot hoops with you.
Yeah. Being present, being there.
I'm sorry you lost your job. I'm sorry that you got cut down, or what, whatever it is. I'm sorry, whatever it is that hurt your identity, or whatever hat you're wearing that day. I'm sorry about that, but I'm still your buddy.
Yeah.
And we can learn to be better friends because we recognize that in our friends,
Mm-hmm.
and we know it means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a time when we need those friends to
Yeah.
come to us. It's going to happen, man.
Yeah.
And man, I love to see them at my front door.
Well, and especially, there's so many different career fields, but athletics tends to be in the spotlight a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So what a worse way of being fired in the spotlight when you know that people know that you were fired. What a terrible experience.
It's all in the paper.
Yeah, but it's what you talked about before. One of the things you learned from football, when you got knocked down, you back up. And that, no matter if it was 7 times, 1 time, 17 times, that experience growing up plays a part in what you do today.
It does.
And then we'll get into to being in the Senate, but running for an election,
One of the hardest things I've ever done.
that's pretty tough.
You helped me.
I helped you. Yeah.
You were shocked about what all was going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you put in the work, just like, and that's another point from all the stories that you've had. Putting the work, the preparation. And in your book, you talk a ton about preparation.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about sports as a coach, you prepare. I don't even know what the percentage would look like. How many hours you prepare for a game?
For a player, I did the math one time, and it turned out to be that for a person that played, not set the bench.
Yeah, this is played.
Not a substitute. Yeah. The player.
Uh-huh.
For every 1 minute they played, they put in for the year, they put in 60 hours of work. Now, for that, man, I forgot. For 1 minute of play, they had 60 hours of preparation, 60 minutes of preparation that week to do that. So, because if you're playing a 60-minute game and you had, and you play half the game or a third of the game, you're a player. Let's just say you have 30 minutes. Okay, then you have that many hours that you're going to need to prepare to play. And so in the course of the season, you add them all up, then it's 60 in a year. Every 1 minute is 60 minutes of preparation physically to get ready to play. So yeah, you have to do a bunch of preparation to do that to be ready. The other guy in front of you is doing the same thing, and that should drive you a little bit to do it. But competition is great; it just makes you better.
Yeah, and there's no known outcome. You prepare to win.
We do.
Sometimes you don't win.
Right, and all this preparation and the coaching and that. So when I run for office, like you're talking about, and we go in there, being an office holder on the state level where I am, this has been the closest thing in coaching that I've ever been a part of. I've been a part of a lot of private businesses, either from IT world, energy world, and then they had their own pressures. But for a state legislature, then we vote on our laws 4 months out of the year. The intensity and the pressure and the number of hours that you put in during that is just like a 4-month football schedule. It's a lot of pressure because you're making decisions for all the people in your state. And you hear from a lot of people, and you hear terrible stories, and you think that you can help, and you go there to make a difference. But the intensity pressure is really, really high when you're in an office. I didn't realize that as we did it. And then on the state level, as you're running, as you were talking about there, you have to go meet the people, so you have to go door to door, and so you work. Like I've had 4 elections. I'm just in my second term. So, yeah, it wears you out. And if somebody had told me that, I don't know if I'd run for it.
Yeah.
But what a great honor it is to do that, because now I'm going to get real philosophical on you, okay?
Okay.
One day I was leaving the state capitol building of Oklahoma, and the Senate park's on the west side of the building. And it was a beautiful spring afternoon, or early evening, and the sun was going down, and for whatever reason, the wind wasn't blowing, which doesn't happen in Oklahoma City.
Especially Oklahoma City,
right?
For sure.
And I looked back at the building, and the sun was hitting, and I said, you know, this is just incredible. Because I just left a floor of, that had people that are farmers, people that are lawyers, people that are teachers, people that are small business owners, people that are retired, people that are young, people that are old. All of these people did the same thing that I did. They put their name on a piece of paper, paid a fee to go run for office, and they were just doing their lives. And they come into this building, they make laws. The people outside of the building agree to those laws, hence the absence of chaos. And we do this all on our own with no kingship, but we, the people, for the people, do it by the people. What a fantastic experiment this is to be a part of. And that's how we govern ourselves. And I'm going to tell you, Bailey, if we don't treat it with utmost respect, then we will lose it. And right now, it's so easy because we are so free. And we're just fearful that we don't take it for granted and keep working. But anyway, it just hit me what a great privilege it is to serve in the state legislature. It is very, very difficult. There's a lot of pressure on you. But again, let's go back to 8th grade when we said, well, it looks like nobody else is going to do it, and you need to step up and lead.
Yeah.
I want to do that. And so we did it, and we won. And we've won twice now. And so we don't take it lightly.
Yeah. And obviously I know you, and you do it with an authenticity, with integrity, and with a sincere heart to make a difference and make an impact for the better of not just Tulsa and our community, but for Oklahoma.
That's what we're trying to do.
And that's not always the case in politics.
Right, it's not.
So that in itself is what a great privilege to have people like yourself working to make our state a better
There's a bunch
state.
of them on the floor too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
again, I go back to the analogy of football. In most football games, the ball's going to turn over, let's say 150 times. The ball's going to move 150 times. Just let me add, okay? Out of the 150 times, there's probably 6 times, in a good, close football game, there's probably 6 times when the ball's turned over that's going to make the difference in the game. So we might vote on 1,000 bills, but it may be only 6 or 7 that really make a difference. But you better be ready for that. And some of them that we've done, is when we voted in the largest pay raise for teachers in the history of the state of Oklahoma. That was a night that I knew that we had made a difference. We made a difference for 40,000 teachers, and we're going to make a difference for 700,000 students in there. And those votes don't come along very often, but you knew that time that you did make a difference. And there's some other bills you make a difference on, like trying to put a lasso on the opioid problem that we have in Oklahoma, and then making sure that it doesn't go too far, that people that are chronically pain can still receive their pain medicine. And boy, that's been a shuffling act, and we've tweaked it now for 3 years in a row to try to get it right.
Yeah.
We're trying to deal with how we're going to handle medical marijuana in Oklahoma. That is a huge issue right now because our laws just really aren't real tight. We're trying to tighten those down some. We have redistricting coming up, trying to make sure that each person has their vote to make that happen. We have the expansion of Medicaid coming to our state. We'll have more people, hopefully that more people have more access to medicine and to health care, but we have to figure out a way to pay for that. So we have opportunities that we've been talking about all night that are coming up, and hopefully you make the right decision because you're prepared, you gain wisdom from either research or from other people, and then you make the vote that hopefully is the best for Oklahoma.
Yeah, and talking about getting into politics, obviously it's very confrontational. Politics can be very, very confrontational. How do you deal? How do you deal with confrontation?
I'm doing better with it, but I go back to my coaching days.
Yeah. I was actually going to bring that analogy up.
Well, when you're around the table with your coaches, okay, I didn't never want to hear say, well, you don't like my ideas because you don't like me.
Yeah.
I said, but I hired you. I offered you the job, so you're telling me now I don't like you? You know? Mm-hmm. So what I really tried to have our coaches concentrate on is what is in the middle of the table? What is that issue? Let's keep our eyes on the issue and not look up at each other and make it a personal thing. Same thing in politics. Can we keep our eyes on the issue and not worry about name calling?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like we can do that now.
Yeah.
In the Oklahoma legislature, it is a very, 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 very small percentage of the time that would ever happen. We still try to do the best we can on issues, but sometimes it comes out of the box and it becomes ugly. We don't like that. So, yeah, I go back to that and say, can we stay on the issue? Let's stay on the issue. Let's see if we can debate the issue.
Yeah.
Not debate you.
The issue.
Debate the issue, and then let's make a vote.
Yeah.
If you vote against me, you have a reason. I vote against you, I have a reason. But it's not personal.
Absolutely, and that's why I think it's so great if you have that background in athletics, you're in a coaching staff meeting, you get to sit there and just because if we're sitting here in a coaching meeting, you say we need to hedge the screen, or I think we need to go under. Mm-hmm. Just because I think differently doesn't mean I hate you.
All right.
So I think just appreciating people for who they are, but understanding we have difference in opinions, but we don't have to hate each other for that.
No, and somewhere we've lost that narrative.
Yes. Not to get too into it, but I just was wondering how you handle confrontation and the way that you see that. And obviously it's through your experiences as a coach.
Yeah, it has been. Mm-hmm. And stay on the issue and don't take it personally. You know, a wise man taught me years ago, says that, once you decide to follow Jesus, you gave up the right to be offended. Let that sink in for a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Talking about your identity.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got your book here.
Okay.
And, I've read it a while back and I highlighted things.
You have some highlights in there.
Oh yeah, I definitely, all my books have highlights and notes.
Good.
One of the things I was looking back over it, it's very simple, but it's to the point, and I want you to kind of just elaborate on it. But the right time is now. Go on, do it, commit to that project, to that person, to the greater purpose. Mm-hmm. You will begin to live with enthusiasm and joy more fully the purpose of your life. Mm-hmm. Is there any elaboration on that?
You can't lie to God. You can't lie to yourself. Mm-hmm. So when you come to that situation, you got to act now. Luke wrote it. He quoted Jesus in the first half of his book. He quotes Jesus to have said, "Any man who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is not fit for the kingdom of heaven."
Yeah.
That part of the book is trying to say it in a little bit different terms. The situation is now, and you commit to it. You got to go with it with enthusiasm. You have to do it now. You cannot wait. Put your hands to the plow. Get to work. Don't look back.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, and what an example. You can look back at your life and see the stories that you've told over the last hour or so and see that is kind of a theme that you've lived by. And if we could just take that to heart, whatever it is that we have ambition to go do.
Right. I'm with you, baby.
Right.
You're a wise man.
I'm not wise.
You're a wise man.
I'm repeating you. Real quickly too.
Okay.
How do you define building excellence, and what does it mean to you?
Okay. Building infers work. Okay. Excellence infers the goal. So how are you going to build towards excellence? Okay, who sets the bar for excellence? Is excellence a relative term or an absolute term? You have to decide that first. And it could be decided on whatever project that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
You may be in a classroom project, and all you need to do is beat everybody else over here. It's a relative project. That was excellent. You did an excellent job, Bailey. Yours was better than everybody else's. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And whatever it is that you had to get to that point, you prepared, you built, it goes back to the can, will, and am. Same thing. You had to decide to do it, then you had to go in and do it, and you had to present it. Okay? So that building towards excellence, you see, it's a relative. Okay? It could be an absolute term. And that you are going to build your life to be excellent. You're going to build your identity as a husband to be excellent. You're going to build, and it's not comparing, now we're not comparing to the husband next door or, your dad or your uncle. You're going to find, hopefully, eternal values by which you can subscribe to excellence. And then you have to figure out how to build towards that. So if it's an absolute value, then you're going to have to probably agree to some eternal values, because it's an absolute scale, and an absolute scale should be without time. It should always be excellent. And so eternity is a continuation of time. So you're going to have to take some of those values that have always been strong, will always be strong, and will forever be strong, and you build towards that. So I think you have to recognize which one that you're at. And once you set your eyes on those absolute values, then again, it's going to be at your foundation, the values that are lasting, that are not temporal, and that's how you build towards that absolute excellence. And those are the values that you're going to build upon, and you're going to prepare yourself, because every day you're going to live that way.
Mm.
It's not like Little League Baseball when you played on Monday and Thursday nights or Tuesday and Friday nights. I will be good on Tuesday and Friday nights.
It's every day.
It's every day.
Everyday excellence.
Every day. Every day. Every day.
Mm-hmm. And when you feel like you haven't, let's just say Monday has been a rough day, didn't do it, you got tomorrow, you got Tuesday. Get back up.
Yeah, get back up.
Yeah. Have you ever read the book Atomic Habits?
I have not.
I reference this a lot, but he talks about creating habits that are lasting, that push you in the direction that you want to be going. And
great. This sounds like I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah,
I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it.
And he talks a lot about this concept, and similar to what we're talking about, where when you miss a day of doing a certain habit that you want to try to instill in yourself, all you need to make sure you do is do not miss tomorrow. The worst thing that can happen is miss 2 days in a row.
Man, that's good stuff.
If you only miss one day, and then tomorrow change whatever that is, then don't miss 2 days in a row. That's all it is.
If you miss 2 days, you're close to having a habit.
And then it starts to spiral.
Great point. I got to read that book.
Yeah, you should.
I love it.
You should.
Thanks for that.
Anyway, I want to honor your time. I want to do a quick. I want to ask you a few questions real quick.
All right.
So
I'll try to be
kind of like a fire round.
All right. Here we go.
So we'll see how sharp you're on your toes.
All right. We're going.
Okay. So just finish the sentence. If I had a superpower, it would be Wisdom. God is
great.
Pressure comes from
within.
My purpose is
to glorify God in all I do.
Favorite book is
the Bible.
Besides the missing page from the playbook.
My favorite book would be How Shall We Then Live by Francis Schaeffer.
Focus means
steady, consistent.
If I could do it all over again, I would
take more time to smell the roses.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for being here, Coach Rader. I appreciate it. If people want to read your book, where can they get a copy of it?
Go to Amazon.
And
put it in there, or send me an email. David at Tulsa Connect.
Okay, there we go.
David at TulsaConnect.com.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing your wisdom with us. Thanks for being a person that really makes an impact for the right reasons. Thanks for being a great father, husband, coach that you've impacted so many people. And thanks for being on the show.
You bet. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks.
You're being great.
Awesome.